Hello, here's your update for the AP test for May 8th. All right, so some basic test info, and this is stuff you probably know already, but the test is going to be Thursday, May 14th. Our check-in is going to be 12:30. The test is going to start at 1 o'clock. And so the test is going to go until 1:50 when you finally submit your answers. So you got to make sure that you have those 80 minutes set aside. And then the units that you'll be tested on will be 1 through 7. And our test is going to be 2 FRQs. So some things to do in the next few days to get prepared for the test. And then these will be in your assignments in the folder too. A lot of these things will be. But you'll want to read the 2020 AP Testing Guide. And that's a longer document, but there's some stuff in there that you can skip that apply to other tests that you don't need to know. But you really want to become familiar with that. There's a link to that. A lot of these things will have links in the AP test resource folder in Schoology. And then you also want to make sure that you practice with the AP exam demo site. When you go there, you type in on the first page, you'll type in just the word practice in the blank, and then you'll be able to practice with the different technology and the different ways to submit your answers. And it's just a really good resource to tell you that if your technology is working with the demo, then you'll be all set to go on the day of the test. You also want to watch the exam walkthrough video, it's around a 4-minute video, but it gives you a rundown of what you can expect to see on the day of the test. And it's just kind of a good refresher so you know what's coming up. And then 2 days before the test, you should print out and complete the 2020 AP exam day checklist. You'll want to do this for every AP test that you take. You're going to get an e-ticket 2 days before the test, and then you'll want to have that checklist all filled out, and you want that next to you on the day of the test, all set and ready to go. And then you want to gather any documents, and I have a list of the documents on a different slide that you want to make sure that you have. And then also make sure you prepare your workspace. You want to have a nice quiet room where you won't be bothered during the test. Someplace where you can plug in any technology that you might need. And then make sure that you practice with everything and you go through all these resources so you're comfortable with the format, so you can just focus on the content that you need to know for the test. All right, so the documents that you want to gather for the test day, you want to have your e-ticket, and that's something that's going to be emailed to you 2 days before the test. Now, I'm going to ask you to make sure that you confirm that you're getting emails from College Board. If you've been getting emails from College Board all along, then you're all set. But if you haven't, then make sure that you go into My AP or AP Classroom and double check your contact info to ensure that you have the correct email address. But you should get that e-ticket 2 days before the test, and that should have your AP number that you'll need to use that to log into the test. And the e-ticket will also have a link to the test, so it's a very important email that you get. If you don't get an email, it should also be in your My AP or AP Classroom. If you log on there, you'll also see it. Make sure you have your exam day checklist printed off and filled out. Make sure you have your periodic table, your equation sheet. I'll have links for both of those in the AP test resource folder. Make sure you have any notes. It's an open note test, so you can start getting your notes together. Make sure you have a calculator with fresh batteries and maybe a backup calculator just in case. And if you plan on typing the test, make sure you have the keyboard tip sheet. The keyboarding tip sheet will just have obviously some tips on to make the keyboarding a little easier. You won't have to, so if you want to type up the test, you won't have to draw any diagrams. So you should be able to type out all your responses and be okay. That's what we were told. But you don't have to worry about typing superscripts or subscripts. or special characters like delta H, you would just write out the word delta and then a capital H right behind that. You don't have to have the symbol, the triangle symbol. So it just has some tips on how to make the keyboarding easier on the day of the test. Then the e-ticket email, again, I talked about that already. You should get that 2 days before the test. So for this test, it's May 12th. Also has a link to the test on there, so it's very important that you have access to that. Now, some things with that, if you don't access your May e-ticket for whatever reason, if you don't take the test in May, you will automatically get a June e-ticket. There's also, we'll talk about later, if something goes wrong, there's a June makeup date. So we'll talk about that on a different slide. But if you don't take the test in May, you automatically will get a June e-ticket 2 days before that test. And then if you don't access your June e-ticket, then you just don't take the test, and then you should get a refund. I was told we had to, the deadline for notifying the school that we weren't taking the test was May 4th, but I guess if you decide you don't want to take the test, even at this point, you can do that. Just don't use any of your e-tickets, don't try to access the test, and then you'll get a refund. But now, what to expect if you are taking the test? What to expect on the test day? So you want to start by preparing your testing environment. So what that means is that you should make sure that you have all your documents ready. Make sure that you have any technology ready, as in your laptop or your phone, whichever way you're using to answer the test. Make sure that it's someplace that's going to be quiet. You're not going to be disrupted during the test. Make sure you let everyone else at your place know that from that 12:30 to 1:50 time slot, you don't want them using the internet or taking up bandwidth. So tell them to take the dog for a walk or go rake the yard or something. Just make sure that they're not bothering you and using the internet during that time. And then the check-in will be right at 12:30. You'll want to click on the link on the e-ticket right at 12:30 and make sure you check in promptly at 12:30 because there's some test security things. There's some information you have to type in and test security scans and whatnot that need to be prepared before the test start at 1 o'clock. So make sure you're ready to go at 12:30 and checking in. And then the test starts at 1 o'clock, and then we have a 2-question test. So question 1 is going to be 30 minutes to come up with your answer, write down your answer or type up your answer, and then submit it. And then during that whole 30 minutes, you'll be able to see all the questions. Just make sure you submit before that 30-minute time is up. Question 2, then as soon as that 30 minutes is up, then you're going to go to question 2. For that one, it's a little bit shorter. You have 20 minutes to answer and submit. Now, one thing I was told that make sure you start question 2 immediately, as soon as you can. Don't wait for question 1 to submit, because as soon as you hit the submit button, then it'll submit in the background as you're working on question 2. So as soon as you submit on question 1, you wait for question 2 to start, and you start question 2 as soon as possible to give yourself the best chance to answer as many questions as possible. And then once question 2 is done, then you submit that before the 20 minutes are up, and then that's it. And then another thing I was told, make sure that the submission is confirmed. That the submission is confirmed before you close up the browser. Okay. Now there's a timer on the test. There will be a timer on the screen for the test. You can choose to eliminate that part. You can have a timer on your phone if you choose to do that instead. But make sure you keep track of time. That's an important part of this test. Another thing I was told is make sure you don't refresh the page or use the back arrow key. Okay, now the question is how to submit your answers. And this is really, it depends on you, and you want, whichever way you want to do this, you want to make sure you practice with the exam demo. If you want to type your answers, I think the best way to do this is use a Chromebook or some other laptop and use a split screen where one side of the screen is the browser with the test on it, and the other side is your document that you're typing on. And then once you're done and ready to submit, you can either copy and paste your answer into the text box on the test screen, or you can upload a document. But make sure that you practice uploading. If it's a Google Doc, you have to download it and then upload it to the test. So make sure you're comfortable doing that. What I suggest if you want to type the answers is just do the split screen, copy and paste all your answers into the test box, and then you're good to go. And then you click submit, and you're good to go to the next one. Um, if you want to write out the answers, and again, this is just whatever you're more comfortable with, then I was told you want to use a phone or a tablet, and you have the test on the phone or tablet. Now, the only problem is it might require you to do a little bit more scrolling to see the questions on your phone because of the smaller screen. But then when you're ready to submit, you take photos with your phone or tablet, but you take a photo of the full page, and you can use up to 5 pages. You attach all the photos that you need, and then you click submit. Um, it won't take, you can submit up to 5 pages for each question. You can probably get it done in one or two, but then you submit that, submit that, and then you're all set to go. Um, I think either way for making a submission is okay. It's really just a personal preference. But my main message here is make sure you practice whichever way you're going to submit on the test day so that you're comfortable going into the test. So another thing to keep in mind that this year, because of the format of the test, you won't have to draw any particle diagrams or Lewis structures. So you would be able to type up all your responses. But again, just make sure you practice with whichever format you're going to use so that you're comfortable with submitting your work. Then a few tips. Make sure you try to answer all the questions, and it'll be tough because I've been told that the questions will be very full. There's going to be a lot of stuff there. There's going to be a lot of content that they're covering on each FRQ, but try to get to all of them. Make sure you don't get stuck on a problem and it keeps you from getting to questions later on. So just keep moving forward. Don't dwell on any certain response. If you get part A wrong, it's okay. Just keep moving on to part B, C, and just keep moving forward. Make sure you are concise with your answers. Don't be overly wordy. Just answer the questions and then move on. If you continue to write out things, if you contradict something that you said earlier, then you lose credit on that. So answer the question and then move on. If you're asked to justify or explain or show work, make sure you're specific in that, and then you do that. A lot of times, if it says to justify or explain, if you don't justify or explain, you won't get credit for that, even though you might have the right answer. You have to have the right explanation to go along with it. But along with that, if it doesn't say to justify or explain, don't. Just answer it and go. Pay attention to sig figs. There's usually 1 point for sig figs. To be honest, it's usually not a big deal. If you get within 1 sig fig, you still get credit, but still want to pay attention to those. Make sure you label the answer with the correct units. And then a very important thing, make sure you submit, even if you don't get all the way done. And it sounds like it's going to be very tough to get done with all the answers. So submit even if you're not quite done. You can still get a 3, 4, or 5 even if you haven't answered all the questions. You can't get anything if you don't submit. So please do that. And then again, wait for the confirmation before you close the browser after the second question. So I'll have to finish this on another screencast.